real budget is. Once that goes in and they break ground, now your budget is firmly fixed. There's a mechanism for change orders. If you see something on site that's funky, you excavate and you find a 30-ton boulder. Now you got to get that thing out and replace it with fill. We didn't know that up front, right? So they have a mechanism for change orders. So that's why you really need to do a thorough job. I go back to, it's a two-step process. Design professional, has to be good at his trade, and then you have to be good at navigating the system. So don't break ground until you're really sure, because that's when your budget's truly established. Does that make sense? But so you really should. No one's going to see the boulder under your house, right? But counting the helical piles, you should know that up front, right? So it's really for those unforeseen things that. In some instances, there's a calculation, and if the state deems that it's less expensive to give you a new house versus repairing the old one and elevating it, it kicks you into another formula. But all this happens in the B, in the budgeting section. So A is for analysis, B is for budgeting. Now we go into C and D, construction documents. We've established the budget. We actually go down to full construction documents. We prepare the permit documents. You're almost ready to launch. So it's analysis, B for budgeting, C and D for construction documents. Now it's at this point where you have enough information, almost enough information. You have more information to make a more educated decision. Is do you pull the trigger on this or not? Because you are allowed to opt out. You can have the architect do all of his work, the survey done, all those 3 other tests, 4 points of reimbursables, and you can walk away at that point. New York Rising will cover those expenses. You can walk away. You don't have to do it. Because you'll have construction documents and you have a budget. Now you come to the builder and you say, what is it going to cost to build this? Anthony takes it, he goes back, comes back to you a week later, says, I think it's going to be, my budget, here's my estimate, it's $147,000. And you say, well, you have a budget of $120,000, you're $27,000 short. Well, then you have to, where are you going to live during that time? You have to make, this is when you have real tangible information. When you start, here at the very beginning, this won't show up on it, but when you start at the beginning of the trailhead, you don't have enough information. You just don't know, and he won't know. He won't know what your budget's going to be. He doesn't know what it's going to cost. He doesn't know what has to happen. He doesn't know site conditions. He shouldn't be anywhere near your house until you have made it this far in the process. Does that make sense? But now you have to think about this. Again, remember what I said. This is a long ball play. This is long-term thinking. And this client here in Lindenhurst, we were sitting at his kitchen table, and he just really put it real succinct. If you're faced with a shortfall in your budget of 20%, 30%, I don't know what the number is. I don't know how it's going to work out. I'm just giving a hypothetical. What if I'm short? What if the rising budget doesn't cover it all? I don't know. I mean, that's a hard. I don't know how you come to your decisions. You sit, you talk, you pray, you counsel, however you get there. But you have to keep in mind the long-term thinking. It's hard. It's hard, and I'm sorry that you're all dealing with this. I really am. I live on the North Shore, and if my house got flooded, then we should all be looking for the animals in pairs coming. What happens if you take a hit on your resale? So it's one of these things where, they say you have an option, but again, you got to be together with your spouse or your significant other. However you come to decisions, through prayer, through counseling, however, but again, you make this decision at C and D. Construction documents, budgets established, construction documents, you start to engage, and E is execution. Okay, we're doing it. There's a client, we put in energy in 27 helical piles, and when we review it, they only had one. And they're like, what are they, $1,200 a pop? It's a lot of money. You go across 26, they missed 26. It's a lot of money. So we have to review that 61 when it comes back. It doesn't mean that it's just, okay, we're done. We handed it in. It's, bounce back, this isn't right, what about this? Does everyone understand why the architect has to have 2 skill sets? And how hamstrung you would be if you had no knowledge of how the program works. Your whole budget depends upon his skill set. We invite the questions. We see references. Why should I hire you? This is big. This is your house. And for most people, this is their most valuable asset. You better be darn sure that you got the right guy. Does that make sense? I know I've been kind of beating this thing. And you might see on your line item, it'll say AE design fee, architect, engineer design fee. The AE is, right. So it's a good question. Bulkhead, the engineer is going to work on that. But again, it goes back to their skill sets are going to be, without getting lost in the weeds, both can do the house, engineer on the bulkhead, but both have to, if you're going to pull the trigger with one of them, you have to be able to navigate this. There's a pretty good chance, and what we've found is that the architect will come in, the engineer will come in and say, my fee is going to be $3,500. And here's your documents. And then this is what they do. Your design fee, let's say your award's $100,000. So the design fee is 10%, it's 10 grand. But you only charge you $3,500. If a client comes to us with tangible asset in the form of construction documents, we'll assume the project, work off those documents, give you a credit for your paid invoice to that architect, and then we'll work off the balance of the design fee plus then whatever we find. Does that make sense? Can be done. Now we have other instances where a lady in Baldwin, she paid this guy $1,500, she paid that guy $2,500, she paid that guy $3,500, paid another guy $3,500. Her design fee was 10 grand, and she burned it all. And then she calls us and says, "Oh, well, we heard you're a reputable firm. I'd like you to come in and help me through the process." I said, "So show me what you have." "I have nothing. I just kept paying people, and I have nothing to show for it." And I said, "Well, the design fee is, you're gonna." Are you going to charge me now? It's uncomfortable, but it's the reality of it is, she goes, "Well, that means I have to dig into my money." I said, "It was always your money." So, and again, this is what I said in the very beginning. I think this is what was needed from the get-go, was to educate the families. I'm hammering this. You need a licensed design professional that meets these criteria and can answer these questions. If they can't, you run. So, Terry, we see a lot of families that are stuck. Can't get lost, again, I don't want to get lost in the specifics, but we have seen folks, so it's like this, another red flag. If they've been working on this thing for 14 months, it's a red flag. It's a red flag. We unstuck people in 5 days over a New Year's Eve weekend. They were stuck for 18 months. I don't know. I don't got no magic wand. I'm doing the same. I'm doing what they said, right? So, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm just saying, if you don't know the deal, you don't know the deal. Okay. Analysis, budget, construction document. E is execution. This is when the trucks and the hammers and the bulldozers show up, right? The design professional is on site as needed if you run into field conditions that are, oh my God, we found a 30-ton boulder. Well, what are we going to do? All right, we got to change orders. We got to write. We found this beam to be structurally unsound when we open this up, and it's not going to hold. And we need triple LVL fitch plate with steel, whatever it is. We're going to write the note on it to support the building going on. It goes to the building dock. So we're attached to the project just like any other construction project. So E is execution. F is the final site visit. We come back, you get your CO, we do our sign-off, New York Rising comes in, they do their sign-off, and then you go to G. And that's good riddance. And you get done with this deal. Yeah, that's it. So this is the process. A for analysis, B for budgeting, construction, documents, that's CD, E for execution, F for final site visit, G, good riddance. Does that make sense? Now, you don't get to pick the order that the ABCs go in, unless you're pulled over on cops, and you're stewed, and you go E, F, B. No one says the ABCs backwards. It's A, B, C, D, E. That's the order. Right? And we've heard it. The homeowners say, I gave my money to the contractor, and he said he'd bring the engineer in and take care of it all, and I don't want to, and he's gone. 17 grand's gone. It's terrible.